For children driven by curiosity, climbed a remote and deserted mountain. They came here without their parents' knowledge to watch the tunnel blast. On the mountain, Annie, the heroine, found a dark hole in a tree. Curiosity made them decide to go down and find out. They use a guessing game to determine the order. Jim was first. They got up the courage to go in one by one. In the dark cave, Jim, who was climbing at the front, was a bit scared. Soon, they came to the deepest part of the cave. Here, they found a crystal clear pool of water. At the bottom of the pool was a strange egg with a golden glow. Chen, the hero, in order to please Annie, without hesitation, he jumped in. This egg seems to have been buried for many years. It took him a great deal of effort to pull it up. After pulling up the egg, its original golden light also disappeared. Outside the cave, they looked at the strange egg in front of them and began to talk about it. Then Annie suddenly realized that she had lost her hairpan. She rushed back into the cave to look for it, but when Annie came out, she found that the other three were all gone. All that was left were the broken eggshells. Annie panicked. She hurriedly looked around, but until darkness did not find them, and she was also lost. The next day, the parents of the missing children chose to call the police. The police immediately launched a detailed search, but they only found Annie, who was on her deathbed. The rest of the children were still unaccounted for. Soon Annie woke up. Under Annie's guidance, they searched for the location of the cave in the deserted mountain, but the hole in the tree seemed to have vanished. It disappeared into thin air. The anxious parents began to blame Annie. They felt she had harmed their children. And that's when bad news came again. The body of a boy was found on a beach. It was Jim, one of the three missing. It was determined Jim's distance of death and distance of disappearance, 20 kilometers from where he disappeared. And it wasn't murder. He died of an asthma attack. This is a strange story that has everyone baffled, but the other two children are still missing. The police also began to track them down. A few months later, Annie suddenly saw a suspicious person in the mountains. She hurriedly went after him. She saw a man she had never seen before, but the man told her an unacceptable truth. He is Chen, who disappeared a few months ago. It turns out that Chen, three people accidentally broke the strange egg. In the moment of breaking, a miraculous scene happened. All the birds in the air were still in the sky. All the wind and grass also disappeared. Even the moon in the sky was frowning there. Back in the town, the situation was the same. A kitten was flouncing in midair. All the pedestrians and cars on the street, all of them stood still for a second, not moving at all. It was as if the whole world was flouncing. Three children were playing unrestrainedly in the town. They ate and drank freely. In the mall, they took things at random. When they came to a mirror, there was actually no them in the mirror, because now the whole world is theirs, and they don't think much about it. Every day is a weekend for them. They didn't even have to think about classes. But this life didn't last long. Soon they got tired of the world, so they decided to leave the island by boat to take a look outside, but they found that the water was still too. They couldn't leave at all, so they went straight to live in the mall. Every day they read comics to pass the time. One day, Jim had a sudden asthma attack, but couldn't take his medication in time. He died as a result. Chen and his other child, Tom, were very sad. They took Jim with them for a long walk. Finally, Jim was buried in a beach. This is the cause of Jim's death in the real world. Time flies. 5 years have passed. Everything here has not changed at all. But Chen and Tom have grown up. In the isolation of the world, their personalities have gradually become self-absorbed. Because they hadn't kept up with the times, their behaviors and minds are still stuck in their childhood. Tom was on the verge of collapse due to his lonely life. Chen lived on the strength of his love for Annie. One day, Chen was venting towards the sky. Suddenly, he saw the moon change in the sky. When he wanted to tell Tom the good news, Tom disappeared. He went all over the island in search of Tom, but he never found him. In this world, the last person who was with Chen was also gone. He decided to jump into the sea to kill himself. Just as he jumped into the sea, he suddenly saw Tom's body. It turns out that he also chose to kill himself. At that moment, Chen's body began to slowly sink. When Chen woke up from the coma, there was finally a sound in the silent world. The sea was flowing. The birds in the sky were also soaring. This means that he has returned to the real world. Everything in front of him was moving. This made him very afraid. He had lived in the silent world for more than 10 years, but only a few months had passed in the real world. The only person Chen trusts now is Annie. So he lured Annie to the mountain, and they met again. Annie looked at Chen in front of her. She couldn't believe it. In just a few months' time, Chen had grown older than her by more than 10 years, despite Chen's desperate explanation, but it was all too unscientific. Annie ran back home in terror, but her intuition told her the man just now was Chen. Annie gathered all her courage. She came to the secret base that only she and Chen knew. Sure enough, it was here. She found Chen curled up by the bed, looking at Chen's carved back for her inside the room. Annie finally believed him. She went forward to hold Chen's hand. At this moment, They could no longer suppress the pain inside. They cried out loudly. In the real world, Chen had long lost his identity. Annie decided to help Chen. She looked at Chen's childhood photos. She gave Chen the same haircut to help him regain his confidence. Annie found the director of the orphanage. She hoped that she could recognize the grown-up Chen. The director promised that she would be able to recognize him, but when she really saw Chen, the director's eyes only had doubt and fear. This made Chen completely desperate. On the other hand, Annie's father found out about Chen. He didn't believe that a dead person could come back to life. He locked Annie up. A despondent Chen broke into Annie's home. They hugged each other tightly. Now Annie is the only one who believes in him. Annie decided to leave this place with Chen to start a new life. The father came home and found his daughter missing. He followed the clues and found their secret base. At this moment, Chen and Annie are packing their bags. He couldn't let this stranger take his daughter away. He knocked Chen down when he wasn't looking, pulled his daughter and headed out. Chen got up with determination. The young and strong man knocked down Annie's father. They also took the opportunity to escape. The police soon arrived to investigate. They found a statue of Annie inside the house. This led the police to believe that Chen was an abductor. Annie and Chen wanted to leave the area by boat, but they couldn't buy tickets without papers. At that moment, a wanted notice for Chen appeared on the radio. They rushed to leave, but eventually the police found out. In order to keep Chen from being arrested, Annie decided to stay and stall the police. At night, Annie sneaked out of the police station and found a strange hole in the tree. In order to stay with Chen, she decided to enter the world of stillness. Then she jumped into the water without hesitation and got another strange egg. But when she came out, she accidentally rolled the egg down, and then it was picked up by Chen, who arrived in time. Chen gassed Annie's idea. He was determined not to let Annie take the risk. A decade of loneliness is unimaginable. At that moment, the police also arrived here. Chen was surrounded by the police. Annie stood in front of Chen, but no matter how much she explained, these people would not believe a child's words until they were pushed to the edge of the cliff. At that moment, a man suddenly attacked Chen. Then the three of them fell into the cliff. When Annie woke up and found herself lying on the beach. Chen was gone. Annie instantly understood. Chen opened the time standstill again to save her, but this time, there would be no one to accompany Chen. In the end, Annie hid the truth in her heart. She knew that even if she told the truth, no one would believe her. In front of the media, in order to make everyone accept it, she confessed to the lie that Chen was the abductor. A few months later, Annie took a ship to leave this sad place. But on the ship, Annie saw a bag. It was Chen. She recognized her by her back only, but Chen was already aging. His face was full of loneliness, and so they looked at each other.